Good evening. It's Thursday, November 24th. Time for our news. I'm Constantino Tsindas. The National Council met today under President Anastasiadis to consider the situation following the failure to reach an agreement on the territory issue in negotiations at Montpellerin. The government spokesman said that Anastasiadis briefed political leaders in great detail about the proceedings at the negotiations, stating that they failed because Akinci had backtracked from his original position on the territory issue. Leaders of political parties said after the meeting that a fresh session of the National Council, an advisory body to the president, will be convened to consider the next moves. Meanwhile, the government spokesman said that President Anastasiadis continued briefing foreign countries on the state of the negotiations. Anastasiadis said he spoke over the phone with British Prime Minister Theresa May and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, and was expecting a call back from German Chancellor Angela Merkel. Turkish Cypriot leader Mustafa Akinci was taken ill today as he was about to brief the so-called parliament of the regime in the occupied north on the Montpellerin negotiations. Turkish Cypriot officials said the meeting of the so-called parliament was cancelled after Akinci felt indisposed because of a high blood pressure condition. They said the meeting will take place at a later stage, but no date was mentioned. Meanwhile, Turkey's Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu is expected to pay an illegal visit to the occupied part of Cyprus tomorrow. A statement in Ankara said that he will be briefed in detail about the Montpellerin negotiations and will depart immediately afterwards. President Anastasiadis has vowed that to the extent it is up to him, he will not allow hope for a solution on the Cyprus problem to be lost, in spite of the failure to reach an agreement in Montpellerin. Anastasiadis told a televised press conference last night that despite the disappointment brought about by the outcome of the talks at Montpellerin, he is determined to make all necessary moves in order for the dialogue to resume, taking into account the concerns of the Greek and Turkish Cypriots. Anastasiadis said the talks failed because Akinci backtracked on an agreement on how many Greek Cypriots would return to their homes in the areas to be evacuated by Turkish troops. He said they agreed that the Turkish Cypriot side would keep under its control between 28.2 and 29.2 of the territory of the island, despite the fact that they made up only 22% of the population. He added that based on that agreement, UN technocrats decided that this would allow between 78 and 94,000 displaced Greek Cypriots to return, out of a total of 170,000. But Akinci rejected these figures and insisted that at best, only a maximum of 65,000 Greek Cypriots should return. UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon had telephone conversations with President Anastasiadis and Mustafa Akinci last night, urging them to reflect on the situation following the impasse they had reached and to carefully consider the next steps in order to bring the process back on track. Ban's spokesman said the Secretary-General encouraged Anastasiadis and Akinci to rise above the mounting pressures and be courageous in overcoming the challenges. He added that the Secretary-General recalled the common determination and vision both leaders had shared when he met them at the opening of the first round of the talks at Montpellerin on November 7th. He encouraged Anastasiadis and Akinci to continue negotiations and strive to achieve an agreement this year for the sake of future generations. He further added that the Secretary-General offered his good offices to assist in any way the two leaders wish in order to move the peace process forward. United States Vice President Joe Biden also urged the leaders of the two communities in Cyprus to continue negotiations for a settlement. A White House spokesperson said in a written statement that Biden spoke by phone with President Anastasiadis and Mustafa Akinci. Cyprus today sent a far-fighting plane to Israel in response to an appeal by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for help by neighboring countries to combat blazes raging out of control for 3 days. The government spokesman said that Netanyahu spoke over the phone with President Anastasiadis. Takis Tsindidis, the director of the Forestry Department, said the plane started operations in Israel at midday. Tsindidis said that Cyprus would have sent another aircraft as well, but could not do so immediately because two foreign pilots were on leave in their countries. Agency reports from Israel today said that easterly winds whipped up more forest and brush fires. Internal Security Minister Gilad Erdan said he suspected many blazes were deliberate, but a police spokesman said that investigators had not yet been able to determine whether any of the dozens of fires were arson cases. A lack of rain combined with very dry air and strong easterly winds have spread the fires this week across central and northern Israel, as well as parts of the Israeli-occupied West Bank. Scores of homes have been damaged or destroyed, although no deaths have been reported. 36 people have been injured. EU lawmakers today called for a temporary halt to EU membership talks with Turkey because of Ankara's disproportionate reaction to July's failed coup. Members of the European Parliament voted solidly in favour of a non-binding motion urging the European Commission and national governments to freeze ongoing negotiations. The motion was passed by an overwhelming majority of 623 votes out of the 650 MEPs. However, EU officials predict that the governments of EU member states are unlikely to take heed of the resolution. EU Foreign Relations Chief Federica Mogherini has said it is better to keep open the channels of communication with Turkey. An explosion that targeted the local governor in the southern Turkish city of Adana killed 2 people and wounded 33 outside the governor's office during the morning rush hour today. A vehicle went up in the car park outside the building, causing many cars to catch fire and sending thick black smoke rising into the sky. Windows were blown out and parts of the facade of the building, 6 floors high, were torn off. That's it for our news. Now look at the weather. Mostly clear skies expected tomorrow. Winds will be light to moderate, northeasterly to southeasterly, becoming westerly to northwesterly locally in western coastal regions. In the afternoon, force 3 to 4. Seas will be generally slight in the west and up to moderate in the east. Temperatures will reach 21 degrees Celsius inland, 22 in coastal regions, and 10 over the mountains. Mostly fine weather expected over the next 3 days, with the temperatures remaining unchanged. The fire hazard remains high in all forest areas. That's it from us. Join us again tomorrow for more news in English. Have a very good evening.